Very heart-touching news. What Jin never said. The hidden struggles of BTS Jin. There are faces that the world recognizes instantly. These are the faces that grace massive billboards in the bustling streets of New York, the fashion avenues of Paris, and the neon-lit districts of Tokyo. They represent the absolute pinnacle of global pop culture. Among these celebrated figures, there is one face that is often introduced with the playful yet undeniable title of worldwide handsome, a moniker that brings a smile to millions of faces across the globe. However, if one looks past the blinding stage lights, the deafening cheers of stadium crowds, and the perfectly curated photographs, there is a story about Kim Seok-jin, known to the world simply as Jin, that is far more profound than his visual appeal. It is a narrative not of instant, prodigal talent, but of a quiet, agonizing battle against the self. It is a journey from feeling like an impostor to becoming a pillar of unshakable strength for the biggest musical act in the world. To truly understand the depth of Jin's journey, we must rewind the clock to a time before the fame, to a period that various media reports and fan archives describe as a time of immense uncertainty. Unlike many of his peers in the K-pop industry, who seem to be born with microphones in their hands or spent their entire childhoods inside rigorous dance academies, Jin walked a completely different path. He was a university student, diligently studying acting at Konkuk University. His dreams were rooted in the theater and film. He wanted to become an actor, to portray the complexities of other people's lives on the screen. He did not dream of dancing in perfect synchronization with others, nor did he envision himself hitting high notes in front of thousands. When he was scouted on the street, it was purely for his appearance. This moment, which many outsiders would consider a miraculous stroke of luck, was actually the beginning of a long, silent war within himself. When Jin entered the training system at Big Hit Entertainment, he walked into a room filled with raw, explosive talent. He saw RM, whose rapping skills were already legendary in the underground hip-hop scene. He saw J-Hope, whose body moved to music as if he were physically part of the rhythm itself. He saw Suga, a musical genius with a producer's ear. And then, there was Jin. He had to learn everything from scratch. While confirmed details of every specific training day remain private, various interviews and documentary footage have revealed the stark, often brutal reality of that era. He was not just learning to sing. He was trying to survive in an environment where he felt he did not belong. He had to alter the way he breathed, the way he walked, and the way he viewed himself. There is a specific, hollow kind of pain that comes from trying to catch up to people who are running at full speed while you are still learning how to crawl. In the early days of BTS, Jin often faced criticism regarding his dancing from the public eye. He was labeled the visual, a member placed in the group primarily to look good. While this label is complimentary on the surface, for an artist, it carried a heavy weight. It implicitly suggested that his contribution was superficial, that he was there for decoration rather than talent. For a young man with pride and ambition, this was a difficult pill to swallow. He spent countless nights in the practice room, staying long after others had packed up and left. While media sources do not have access to his private thoughts, the members themselves have mentioned in past content how Jin would practice the same move hundreds of times, driven by a desperate desire not to be a burden to the team. The fear was not just about failing personally. The fear was about holding back the people he had come to love as brothers. As BTS began to climb the ladder of success, a new form of struggle emerged. For Jin, it was the struggle of identity and leadership. He was the eldest member, the Hyung. In South Korean culture, this role demands strength, stability, and guidance. He had to be the rock for the 6 younger members. Yet, internally, he was fighting his own demons of self-worth. In his solo track Awake, released in 2016, the lyrics offer a heartbreaking glimpse into his psyche at that time. He sings about the possibility that he may never fly like the petals, and describes himself as just walking and walking in the darkness. These are not merely lyrics written for dramatic effect. Fans and critics alike interpret them as the confessions of a man who looked at his younger brothers and felt that he could never touch the sky in the way they could. He admitted to feeling that he was not as talented, not as gifted, and that his only choice was to endure the pain and keep holding the flowers of his effort. This period marked a transition from a physical struggle to psychological warfare. To cope, he began to use humor as a shield. The infamous dad jokes, the exaggerated confidence, the signature flying kisses, these became his armor. Fans and psychological analysts often suggest that people who laugh the loudest are often protecting a quiet sadness. Jin seemed to realize that the group needed levity. They were under immense pressure, facing death threats, plagiarism accusations, and industry ridicule. To protect the mental state of his younger members, he chose to become the source of laughter, often at his own expense. He allowed himself to be the butt of the joke so that the tension in the room would dissipate. This was a sacrifice of ego that went largely unnoticed by the casual viewer, but for those who looked closely, it was an act of profound love and leadership. However, the most dangerous moment in his emotional journey came when the world thought he was at his happiest. In late 2020, BTS reached the absolute summit of the music world with Dynamite, hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was a historic achievement. Yet, on his birthday that year, Jin released a song titled Abyss, and an accompanying letter that shocked the world. In this verified letter, he confessed to experiencing severe burnout. He revealed that he had deeply questioned his own worthiness. He asked himself, "Do I deserve all this praise?" He felt that there were so many people who loved music more than him and were more talented than him, yet he was the one receiving the glory. This is a classic manifestation of what is known as impostor syndrome, but for Jin, it was a paralyzing darkness. He spoke of wanting to put everything down. He spoke of seeking counseling. He spoke of a deep, hollow loneliness that global success could not fill. Imagine standing on top of the world with millions chanting your name, yet feeling like a fraud who might be discovered at any moment. The bravery it took to admit this vulnerability to a global audience cannot be overstated. In an industry that demands perfection, Jin showed his wounds. He told the world that it is okay to not be okay, even when you appear to have everything. Yet, he did not stay in the abyss. The story of Kim Seok-jin is not a tragedy. It is a testament to resilience. He found a way to turn his doubt into philosophy, most notably with the song, Epiphany. Through this era, he shifted the narrative from "I am not good enough" to "I am the one I should love." This was not just a catchy pop song. It was a realization he had fought for through years of tears and sweat. He realized that he did not need to be the best dancer or the fastest rapper. He just needed to be Jin. He accepted his flaws and decided that they were part of his beauty. He showed his fans that self-love is not a destination you arrive at once and remain. It is a battle you fight every single day. His recent enlistment in the military was another chapter of uncertainty. Leaving the spotlight at the peak of one's career is a terrifying prospect for any artist. There is always the fear of being forgotten, the fear that the fast-paced industry will move on. Yet, reports from his time in the service painted a picture of a man who had fully mastered himself. He became an assistant instructor, a role reserved for elite soldiers who demonstrate exceptional capability and leadership. He did not ask for special treatment. He carried the same heavy pack, ran the same miles, and endured the same harsh winters as any other young Korean man. This earned him a level of respect from the general public in South Korea that transcends the typical boundaries of K-pop fandom. He proved that his dignity was not a costume he wore on stage. It was his skin. People often ask why Jin is so deeply loved. It is not just because of his silver voice, which has been praised by critics for its emotional stability and range. It is not just because of his face. It is because he represents the ordinary person achieving the extraordinary through sheer, unyielding persistence. He is the person who was told he couldn't, so he did. He is the person who felt small, so he built himself up brick by brick. He is the person who cooks for his friends, who drives them around, and who checks on them when the cameras are off. According to various fan accounts and behind-the-scenes content, his kindness is consistent and quiet. He is the glue that holds the chaotic brilliance of BTS together. As he looks toward the future, Kim Seok-jin stands as a different man than the nervous acting student who walked into Big Hit over a decade ago. He carries the scars of his battles, but he wears them with elegance. He has spoken in interviews about his desire to simply live a happy life, a life where he can continue to bring joy to others. He has hinted at a desire to explore more of his own musical identity, unburdened by the need to prove himself to anyone. The financial success, which media outlets estimate to be substantial, and the shelves full of trophies are merely byproducts. The real victory of Jin is that he survived his own mind. There is a powerful lesson in his story for anyone watching this. We often look at successful people and assume they were destined for greatness, that they lacked the insecurities that plague us in the middle of the night. Jin destroys that illusion. He teaches us that you can be terrified and still take the next step. He teaches us that you can feel like you are lagging behind, yet still finish the race. He teaches us that kindness is a form of strength, and that loving yourself is the hardest, yet most necessary work you will ever do. As the noise of the world fades and the lights of the stage dim, we are left with the image of a man standing alone, taking a deep breath. He is no longer the boy who wanted to fly like the petals. He is the man who realized that he can walk on his own 2 feet, at his own pace, and that his walk is just as beautiful as their flight. He is Kim Seok-jin, and his journey reminds us that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is simply to stay, to endure, and to believe that you are worth loving.